Buckle up for phase 2.
One of the biggest crash and burn story arcs in the Boysverse has to be Sister Sage's. She was introduced as the world's smartest person, someone Homelander personally looked up to help resolve his slipping grasp on Vought, his mortality, and his sanity. Her initial work yielded excellent results for a new employer, but then she experienced the meaning of the phrase being too smart for your own good. She thought she could rely on her intelligence to outwit not one, but two of the strongest Supes we've ever seen, and now she's lost both of them. So what exactly does Sister Sage's endgame look like? Will she be able to get back in Homelander's good graces, or will she do something else entirely? Find out by the end of this video.
Sister Sage? Hell no. She was with me in Teenage Kicks.
The consequences of manipulating Homelander. How Sage will likely be treated in Season 5. When Sage came into the picture, she thought she was hot stuff. That's bound to happen, we suppose, when the strongest person on Earth shows up at your door and asks you to become his personal advisor. Sage was honestly surprised by Homelander's arrival because he was the last person she expected to see. But when he gave her an on-the-spot test and she aced it by evaluating everything about his appearance and how it relates to his needs and desires, he knew he'd knocked on the right door. After asking her how he can keep the company running while changing his public perception, she told him killing everyone was tempting, but also unproductive. If the people died, then who would worship him anymore? Who would tongue his tail, proclaim his legend to the skies? No, Homelander needed the people to further his legend. And when she used a Caesar reference, he finally understood what she was talking about. Sage wanted to play a political game with the Starlighters and the Homelanders that ended with him on top, because this was the first time she was getting the opportunity to really strut her stuff. She'd always been overlooked on account of her gender and racial identity, but now, the strongest white male that anyone knew on Earth was asking her to essentially take over Vought and get him in the White House. And Sage was ready for that challenge. Throughout Season 4, we saw her wheeling and dealing like she's a major banking corporation, trying to sell a merger despite knowing one of her properties is essentially insolvent. Sage brought in Firecracker, spited Firecracker to get her angry enough to take over for Cameron Coleman, engineered Homelander's pivot to the far right, and even told Ashley to get some lactation going because she instinctively knew that this guy needed a mummy, figuratively and literally. She was feeding intel to the boys on the down low by giving A-Train, their liaison, exactly what she wanted them to know, and she masterminded the political coup that put Homie's crony, Calhoun, in the office of the president. Even when Homelander fired her because he figured out she was keeping things from him, Sage remained on his side, because in her mind, a victory for Supes was validation of her own intellect. When she was a child, Sage tried to help her cancer-riddled grandma and used her advanced intelligence to actually come up with a cure. She presented her research to a bunch of cancer specialists, but they laughed her off, and her grandma died screaming because of the pain. Since that day, she's hated humans because they took the only person she cared for and who cared about her away from her. And that's part of the reason why she agreed to spearhead Homelander's plan. It was as much about Sage getting her way as it was about her seeing if she could pull off a complex scheme like the one she told Homie about towards the end of Season 4, because despite her brain death fetish, she managed to pull off putting Calhoun in the office. And since he'd already pledged his allegiance to Homelander during a party at Tech Knight's mansion, which is also where we first got the clue about the freedom camps, the government was now in Homie's pocket. She could have taken a beat, smelled the roses, celebrated in a way that didn't involve undermining Homelander's authority, because at the end of the day, everything she'd accomplished was because of his backing. But no, she had to outdo herself. She had to go ahead and see just how deep she could prod the bear and make it dance. And that's where Thomas, Gdulkin, comes in. Sage was one of the only people on the planet that knew about Cypher's true identity as Gdulkin, and she used that knowledge to concoct a plan to control Homelander himself. Throughout Gen V Season 2, we see her talking to him about enhancing Marie Moreau's powers to the point where she could heal his original body, because Cypher was strong, but Gdulkin was stronger. She was most likely attracted to him because he was the only person on the planet that could match her intelligence. And she did a lot of things for him, like kidnapping Marie's sister to jumpstart her dormant blood manipulation powers. The plan was to get Gdulkin fit again, so he could presumably take control of Homelander and give both himself and Sage a real chance at ruling the world. But that went up in flames when Thomas immediately disregarded everything he promised Sage and got to work on his own supremacist ideals. Sage knew her boo had more than a few screws loose when he essentially started purging his students to cull the herd, as it were. And because Gdulkin has announced his return to essentially the whole world, she knew that Homelander would be infuriated once he discovered their relationship. This is exactly what the trailers and teasers for Season 5 are hinting at, because if you look closely, you won't see Sage standing anywhere near Homie. she's tucked away in the background of the action, whereas Firecracker seems to be taking center stage. We're pretty sure this is Sage being put on timeout by Homie because he knows that she is scheming to do something to undermine him. He might not be able to put his finger on it yet, but the news that Gdulkin was killed by the same girl he once lasered the hell out of will have surely reached his ears. So while reports about Sage's visit to Gdulkin and Homelander might not have a broad view of things, but one thing he can sniff out easily is treasonous intent. So he will keep Sage around for her brains, but he'll have her stuck doing admin work and only call upon her when he really needs her. This doesn't mean that he is going to keep her alive, because Sage now knows that Homelander sees her as a threat, and she's aware of the fact that his policy on dealing with threats is permanently ending them after serving their purpose. She will be working on strategies to ensure her own survival, because like she once said, if all of this doesn't work out, she can just disappear into obscurity, or rather go back to where she came from. Moreover, now that she knows that she can't control Homelander anymore, her only logical choice is to kill him, because as long as he's alive, he will keep her teetering on the knife's edge. And if he gets his hands on V1, Sage will keep teetering for the rest of her life. This is why she needs an exit strategy, because otherwise she's doomed. And we think we know what that exit strategy will end up looking like. The Endgame. How will Sister Sage emerge from the Supes-pocalypse? In all the promo material for Season 5, we see Sage lurking in a lab where someone is getting a Compound V injection. Now this could be Homelander getting V1, which explains why she looks so concerned in the shot where she's overseeing the procedure. Sage knows that with this formula, Homelander is unstoppable, because the only thing that could have ended his life was the natural conclusion of his lifespan. She herself commented on this during their first meeting, which ironically enough is what inspired Homie to hire her. But if this is someone else, then what we think she's doing in that lab is trying to create an answer to Homelander's immeasurable strength, because it's either that, or the trailer shot is entirely inaccurate, and Sage is eavesdropping on a conversation in that shot instead. So that's possible endgame contingency number 1. Sage makes a new supe to take down Homelander. Contingency number 2 would involve her using the formula on members of the boys, because Sage is already in indirect contact with them. Her quote-unquote leak, aka A-Train, is on their side now, and Sage can use him as an intermediary to pass information to Butcher's gang that can not only dismantle Homie's plans from the inside, but also give the boys the comics-based original feel they've been missing or most of the show's run. In the comics, MM, Frenchie, Huey, and Butcher himself are all fledged supes, and it's possible that the person whose injection she's overseeing is one of them. Whatever path her endgame scenario takes, one thing is crystal clear to us: she will, in one way or another, end up being the architect of Homelander's downfall. That's why the Caesar comparison is important, because eventually he became so popular with the public, yet so detested by the Senate, that his own friends assassinated him. Chief among them was Brutus, and it looks like Sage is gearing up to become Homie's Brutus, because if she can't control him, then she's definitely going to stab him in the back. Our best guess is she'll enter an if you can't beat them, join them kind of deal with the boys, where she'll give them access to important information that will allow them to ambush Homelander in the White House. And if she's creating a secret supe, or giving Compound V to the rest of the team, then she'll also be assisting Homie's downfall in more direct fashion. But as for where she'll end up after all is said and done, we can't confirm this, but we definitely think that Sage will end up becoming the next Stillwell for Stan Edgar, once he retakes Vought, because that is definitely still his plan. He has hit a massive speed bump, yes, but Stan's the kind of guy who doesn't care about much beyond prices per share. That's exactly the kind of mentality Sage has as well, and plus, there's some basis for this in the comics. Over there, James Stillwell, who's the director of Vought, retains his position even after the Homelander coup attempt fails. And while Homie, Noir, and many other supes die, Vought continues to live on, and several other supes continue to exist, including Starlight. It will be a scandalous and delightful turn of events if Stan Edgar returned to Vought, made Sage his second in command, and turned Starlight into his flagship asset to clean up the company's image as its stock prices skyrocket. Because by the time Homelander is defeated, Starlight will become the most recognized and revered superhero on Earth, and Vaught's going to need someone like her to ensure that the debacle that occurred with Homelander never happens again. By the end of this war between the boys and the supes, enough debauched elements would have perished to give Vought the clean slate it needs to get back to its wheeling and dealing ways. And who better to make it happen than the smartest person on Earth? The combination of Sage and Stan will be lethal, and yes, we know that there's a chance she can die just as easily, but now that she's experienced Homelander's instability and Gdulkin's betrayal, Sage is going to be extra careful with her calculations. She let hubris get in the way of pure rationality during her previous appearances because she thought she's better than the system. Now, she can use those experiences to beat the system and establish a new one while quietly reaping the benefits of a new title. That's exactly what she said she'll do if this whole plan doesn't work out. except her initial idea included anonymity. And since Homelander hasn't worked a lot with her publicly since embracing the far right, Sage can spin her own narrative however she wants to. She's the only person that can fall into a pigsty and come up smelling like roses. But that's entirely contingent on whether the show actually goes in the direction we expect it to. This is pure speculation on our part, but look us in the eye and tell us you don't think a Sister Sage, Stan Edgar team-up would be an epic way to end this series. We'll be more than happy to show you a liar. Conclusion. As for this video, that's all we've got for you guys, so let us know what you think Sister Sage's endgame will be down in the comments. Like, share and subscribe to our channel for more content from the boys verse, and we will see you guys real soon with yet another video. Until then, stay safe and as always, have a nice day.